A lot of the questions web hosts get are all the same. Today I will tackle some of the most common problems and get them answered once and for all. Web hosting for video games? I go one-on-one with the folks from Enfinity Hosting to talk about web hosting, dedicated game servers, and so much more. There's going to be an open bar and gambling at HostingCon 2005. Now, where in the heck did I put my invitation? Buckle your seatbelt and grab your granny. The web hosting show is on the air.
Welcome to the Web Hosting Show. You're about to enter the wild and wacky world of web hosting. And now, ladies and gentlemen, Mitch Keeler.
Hello and welcome to the Web Hosting Show, the voice of the web hosting world. The Web Hosting Show is brought to you by Web Hosting Chat. Web Hosting Chat is your number one place for web hosting discussions and can be found at www.webhostingchat.com. Who am I? Why, I am the most charismatic man in the web hosting business today, Mitch Keeler. If this is your first time tuning into the show, welcome. This show is for web hosts as well as web hosting clients out there. We cover the web hosting world from top to bottom and try to have a little fun during the ride. Today we'll be covering the latest web hosting news, some of my own views, and your toughest web hosting questions. First though, I'd like to let you all know that I actually broke down and finally bought an MP3 player last week. It's a Dell Pocket DJ, and I think I am truly in love, finally, again. The main reason I wanted to get it is so that I too can listen to some of the other great podcasts that are out there today, and that way I wouldn't be chained to my computer while I'm listening. I also thought it might be a little easier to explain how you can listen to my show on your portable device. It can be a Dell Pocket DJ. It could be an iPod. It could be any type of portable media player. So if you have an MP3 player and you're not downloading the show yet, hopefully in the future I'll be able to work on a segment to make it easy and quick for you to put the web hosting show on your portable device and listen to me more often, because, we all need a little bit more Mitch in our lives. Another thing worth mentioning is that my web hosting ebook, Locker Gnome's Guide to Web Hosting, is ready for purchase. Inside the pages, you'll find everything you've ever wanted to know about the web hosting world. For web hosting clients out there, it's a good resource to keep coming back to for information, help, tutorials, and more. For the web hosts out there, it's a good place to find out how to better communicate with your web hosting clients. So if you haven't picked up your copy yet, you can figure out how to do so by clicking the link for it in the show notes for this episode of the Web Hosting Show. Last week, the Web Hosting Show was also mentioned in the latest edition of the Hosting Chronicle, a web hosting dedicated site that has bunches of articles and support. It's a real nice website. You ought to go visit it. Jonder wrote a great feature story about the progress of the show so far, and a little bit more about my background, history, and what I've done in the past with the web hosting business, along with where I want this show to go into the future. If you haven't read it yet, I'll make sure I put a link for it in the show notes. Now it's time for the latest and greatest in web hosting news. The web hosting headlines are sponsored by the Web Host Industry Review. The Web Host Industry Review is your top resource for all of today, yesterday, and tomorrow's web hosting news, and they can be found at www.thewhir.com. If you want to read any more about the stories mentioned on today's show, links can be found in the show notes for this episode. dedicated web hosting provider FastServers.net announced on Friday that it would host a live casino and post-convention party during HostingCon 2005, taking place June 6th to 7th in Chicago, Illinois. Now that really makes me wish I could attend this year's event. Unfortunately, I won't be there. Maybe next year, though. An open bar, gambling, and web hosting geeks. You know. Oh yeah, you know. This is gonna be one happening party. According to research and analysis firm Netcraft, internet portal and web hosting provider Yahoo has extended its $4.98 domain name offer for the fourth time since starting the promotion back in December. People like a good deal, so I could see why Yahoo is trying to make this more permanent. I just wish they would make it a permanent price, so I don't have to keep announcing every single stinking month that they're gonna extend it a little longer. Web hosting provider 1&1 Internet announced on Wednesday that its eShop web hosting packages will now offer PayPal as a preferred payment method. PayPal is definitely a feature to get happy about, and I'm happy to hear that 1&1's getting this done. This week we have a special interview and treat for all of the web hostomaniacs out there in web hosting land. I've been working very, very hard at trying to get this important author and Locker Gnome contributor, Mitch Keeler, on today's show. What some of you may not know is Mitch Keeler just wrote one of the best damn web hosting books out there today. If you haven't picked it up, I don't know what's wrong with you. You should go and pick it up today, read it, reread it, and read it one more time to get all the latest and greatest web hosting help, reviews, news. It's like one big plethora of web hosting information. It's out there for web hosting clients and web hosts. So today I'm very happy to admit that I have Mitch Keeler here to talk about Locker Gnome's Guide to Web Hosting. Hello, Mitch, and thank you for coming on today's show. Well, Mitch, it's been a real joy to be on the web hosting show, since this is the one and only voice of the web hosting world. Why, thank you, Mitch. Now, I wanted you to kind of help explain why people should go out and pick up Locker Gnome's Guide to Web Hosting. Well, Mitch, I wrote this book thinking, I wanted to put down everything I knew about the web hosting business down on proverbial paper. In Locker Gnome's Guide to Web Hosting, I cover the web hosting business from top to bottom, from the time you sign up for a new account all the way down to what you should be looking for when shopping for web hosting. Well, Mitch, why do you think that web hosts should pick up this book and read it very, very carefully? That's a very good question, Mitch. And may I say, you're very good looking as well. Why, Mitch, you're flattering me, because I know you're one good looking guy too. Okay, Mitch, but I'll get to answering your question now. The reason web hosts should pick up this book is because it tells them, it's like giving them a guide to what their web hosting clients are thinking. I've been on both sides of the fence. I've been on the web host side and the web host client side. So I know what both of them are looking at and looking for in each other. Web hosting clients just want to make sense of all the jargon that's going around the web hosting world. Web hosts want to know what's the best way to get a hold of their web hosting clients and what kind of information should they be putting out there and maybe explaining better for their web hosting clients. Well, Mitch, thank you for stopping by the web hosting show today. I know you're a very, very busy man, and just for taking out a couple of seconds of your time, I'll be sure from now to infinity to keep plugging this book over and over because it really is the essential guide to the web hosting world. Why, thank you, Mitch, and it's been an honor and a privilege to appear on the Web Hosting Show. My web hosting views are sponsored by Data Center Talk, the place to go to get all the latest and greatest in the world of data centers. You can find them at www.datacentertalk.com. For the hosting clients who might be out there in the audience today, I thought I would get some of the most asked questions answered so, some of your web hosts will probably stop pulling all of their hair out. They love you. Web hosts love their web hosting clients, but a lot of the same questions get asked over and over and over again. So I thought I'd take a little time out of my busy schedule and get some of these answered for you right here on your number one place for web hosting radio, the Web Hosting Show. Is domain name registration and signing up for web hosting the same thing? No. Most of the time you'll have to go through two separate processes to get both of them done. It really changes from web host to web host, and I'm sure there's one out there that will prove my theory wrong, but 90% of the time this is how it's done. How long does it take for your domain name to propagate? Now, I know that sounds a little dirty, but hold on, I'm not going down that route. We went through the first two shows mentioning adult web hosting, but no, I'm not doing it again. You see, the act of domain name propagation really means it's like your domain name getting spread from this big computer database to this one, to that one, to this one, the one in Texas, the one in China, the one in Europe, all around the globe. That way, whenever somebody in New Mexico types in your domain name, such as www.webhostingshow.com, they'll be led right to the Web Hosting Show website. Now, how long should this take? Well, most of the time it'll take 24 to 72 hours before your domain name will actually start going to your web hosting space. Now, I know there's a couple of people out there that are probably ready to say, well, actually, that's not the way you do it. We actually have to go through the transisting modular that goes through and talks to the other web host and blah, 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 blah. I'm trying to make this short, simple, and sweet so anybody and everybody can understand it. Yeah, there are more technical terms behind it, but just think of this as the Cliff Notes version of web hosting. Now, some web hosting clients are confused about this, but yes, web hosting clients are responsible for renewing their domain names. It isn't up to your web host to keep up to date with this kind of stuff either. It's your domain name, and you have to keep track of its records. If you feel like you won't remember a year from now that you've got to go and re-register that domain name, most domain name registers will let you go through your billing settings and set to auto-renew. You'll just have to make sure that you have a credit card that you'll still have in 1 year. If you don't want to go down that route, though, then you'll just have to write yourself a note and keep it up for a year, and hopefully you'll get your domain name re-registered. Thankfully, though, most domain name registers will send you a warning notice within like 90 or 60 days, so you'll be able to know when your domain name is actually coming up for renewal. Just remember that there's no such thing as a stupid question out there, folks. If you have any web hosting questions you'd like to send my way, just send me an email at mitch@mitchkeeler.com, and I'll be more than happy to get it answered on this very show. The web hosting interviews on this show are sponsored by Enfinity Hosting. Enfinity Hosting can be found at www.infinityhosting.com. Speaking of Enfinity Hosting, since this is a whole new feature on the show, I thought I'd speak with them first. I had a chance to catch up with one of their staff members, CJ, a couple of days ago, and this is our one-on-one interview. Sometimes I feel like I've been in the web hosting business for an infinity. Now there is a web hosting company that is called Enfinity Web Hosting. Coincidence? I think not. Today I have with me CJ from Enfinity Hosting. CJ, could you introduce yourself to the nice people out there in web hosting land?
Well, my name is CJ Scaminacci, and I'm the Senior Server Administrator at Enfinity Hosting Solutions, where we host dedicated gaming servers and web hosting.
For those of us out here in the web hosting world that haven't heard of Enfinity Hosting before, could you tell us a little bit behind what you do and how it sets you apart from your competitors?
Our philosophy is that we can offer extremely good deals with lots of bandwidth, great technical support, and just great customer interaction. This offers some problems, though, as most people might think it's a scam. But we're honestly sincere in our statement when we say you're going to get the best prices, best customer service, and the best bang for your buck. There's some really bad companies out there just, in to get a quick buck. What sets us apart from our competitors is that we're dedicated to changing the web hosting world. Many companies out there are quick to say they'll give you tons of bandwidth and lots of disk space cheap, but they won't follow through on it, or they'll just give you a severely restricted acceptable use policy that hinders you from using your new account. We go the extra mile to incorporate cutting-edge technology into our data center that enables us to deliver the deals we promise.
How long has Enfinity Hosting been around, and how do you feel that impacts your views on the web hosting community?
We're a fairly new company on the market. We've only been around about 6 months. This may make us look bad in the community, but we've certainly flourished, and our customers seem very happy with our deals. We're dedicated to bringing awesome technical support, awesome customer interaction, and all around just giving them a great deal.
How long have you been around the web hosting industry, CJ?
I've been around about 5 years in the community. I've worked server administration for other web hosting companies, as well as a few large businesses in the area. I mainly work in web hosting community as a Linux system administrator with a strong liking for the Unix operating systems. But Enfinity has forced me into working with Windows servers, and I enjoy the challenge.
Now, Enfinity does something different from other web hosts out there because you guys offer video game server hosting as well. I was wondering, why is it that more web hosting companies don't get into offering this kind of service?
That's a very good question. Dedicated video game servers are dedicated servers that run on Linux usually, and in the case of Halo on Windows boxes. They're a central hub for about 16 to 32 players to associate together and play an online game such as Counter-Strike, Halo, or the like. The difference between game servers and web hosting is that game servers usually can run 2 to 3 clients per server. Web hosting can run as many as 60 to 70. More companies probably don't get into the game server business because it takes a lot of funding to back, and it's very, very hard to find system administrators that are willing to support such servers.
Now, I know you said that Enfinity hasn't been around as long as some other web hosts out there. I was just wondering how the web hosting community has treated you thus far, if it's been positive or negative.
I'd have to say we've been treated pretty badly in the community, actually. Most companies we encounter out there are just resellers for somewhere else, and we went to break that and create our own hosting at the core. You're getting into the center of the web hosting community rather than just reselling, and any other company you might encounter might be a reseller for a reseller. And they don't like our deals, and they think, we might be a scam or something, but that's their honest opinion.
Have you run into any huge problems yet that many web hosting companies face on a daily basis, or have things been pretty smooth sailing so far?
Well, as smooth as a new company can be, Definitely starting out, it was kind of rough getting our name out there and being able to support all of the servers that we acquired, but as things got along, around month 3 or 4, we definitely started picking up, word of mouth got about us, and we're definitely doing a lot better now. Smooth sailing.
Do you believe that hosting video game dedicated servers is going to be more of a kind of a side project for web hosts, or do you think that over time it'll move into a bigger business for the web hosting community?
Well, that's kind of an interesting subject because game server hosting really requires a lot more people to run. Game servers are very unique and require a different type of server admin to support them. I think that it's more of a niche thing, and there's definitely more money to be had there than web hosting. I seriously doubt that more companies would pick up on that, as it's kind of a hard area to market, and you have a very, very small target audience.
So, if you had somebody who didn't know what they were doing, their cost could effectively end up becoming greater than the income they'd be making from their services.
Exactly. Game servers require a lot of bandwidth, some as much as 80 to 100 gig a month, and the cost of running them, if you don't have a good carrier, could be very, very expensive. So it's all about optimization and your target audience and how you incorporate your people into your servers.
Dedicated web hosting for podcasts is growing by leaps and bounds every day. I wanted to know if you thought that it might share any similarities with video game dedicated servers and that type of hosting that's going on right now. Do you think that more web hosts will jump on the specified special hosting for these types of services in the future?
Sure, in the future, as we see internet telephony and voice over IP take precedence over landlines, I'm sure we'll see podcasting getting in pretty big. Nobody ever thought MP3 would catch on either.
What is the most important aspect to web hosting for you and Enfinity Hosting in general?
Of course, the most important part is your customers and how you interact with them. We definitely take advantage of a toll-free number and 24-hour support, and that's probably the most important thing to your customers, too. They want to be able to pick up the phone, contact you, and get you to fix something if it goes wrong right away. Most companies that we encounter out in the world will only support via a PHP trouble ticket system or email system, and people don't like waiting for things to get done. So definitely customer interaction is the most important aspect.
Where is it that you see Enfinity Hosting a couple of years down the road?
In the future, we see Enfinity as moving into a larger data center, more servers, and really changing the whole face of the web hosting world. We also plan to open some internet cafes around the world, located in one of our data centers, actually, here in Chicago.
With the introduction of blogging and other tools that have made handling web hosting a lot easier, do you think that web hosting will continue to rise, or if it will finally kind of reach its peak and start going down as far as popularity goes?
Definitely there's room to grow. If you remember a few years ago, web hosting used to be very expensive back when Cogent was still establishing a high-speed network throughout this country, fiber optic and such, and people really, their only option were, pay expensive prices for, low bandwidth and low disk space web hosting, or use a free service such as Tripod or GeoCities. Well, new technology and the new Cogent and Yites network throughout the country has really enabled the web hosting company, industry to grow, and definitely with the prices going down the way they are and technology improving at such a rate, I definitely think there's places for the web hosting company to go that haven't been thought of in the past.
Now, I made a few predictions earlier in the year about the future of web hosting in this next year. I was thinking that either the costs will go down for disk space and bandwidth, or we'll see disk space and bandwidth rise with web hosting accounts. I was just kind of curious, which one do you think, or which route do you think the web hosting world will take?
Well, if I could use Enfinity as a reference, both. The cost of disk space is becoming extremely cheap with the incorporation of core RAID technology and serial ATA, disk drives becoming cheaper, and the cost of bandwidth going down significantly since Cogent established a strong fiber optic network.
Well, CJ, we're about to reach the end of our little time limit here. I was wanting to know if you wanted to leave the web hosting show's audience out there with any final thoughts about Enfinity Hosting or you yourself.
Definitely. I would like to tell everyone that to really investigate your web host before you buy and research their background, where they're located, what data center they're in, and if they're a reseller for someone else. Resellers usually are not the greatest option to go with because they have limited resources and they usually offer more than they can deliver. I would say definitely take a look at us, and you can check out our website at ehservers.com, and that's pretty much it.
If you would like to appear on this show or you have something to say, please get a hold of me at mitch@mitchkeeler.com, and we'll be sure to try to work you into the next episode of the Web Hosting Show. I'm really looking forward to talking with more folks out there in the web hosting world and getting your feedback about their appearances on this show. The web hosting website of the week is sponsored by Banner's World. Banner's World is the #1 place online to get your own professional banners and graphics created by the best artists in the business. You can find out more about them at bannersworld.com. That's BANNERSWORLD.com. This week's web hosting website of the week is another new sponsor to the web hosting show, WebHost Gear. WebHost Gear is a great article resource that I must visit at least once a day to get some of the best help and how-to articles on the World Wide Web. If you're looking for some great web hosting tutorials, this is the place to go visit. They really are the hosting resource for professionals. If you have an idea for the next web hosting website of the week, just send me an email and I'll be sure to get it featured on the next edition of the Web Hosting Show. All of the web hosting questions and comments that come in via my inbox every day are sponsored by the folks at WebHost Gear. To find out about more web hosting tutorials, help, and more, go to www.webhostgear.com. Our first email for the day comes from Bob. Bob writes, "Hi Mitch, I'm currently in the process of building websites for people, churches, and small companies. I have isphost.org as a web host, and I'm allowed 10 domains where I can host multiple sites. My question is, should I use my host when creating someone's site, or should I have them sign up for a new hosting package? Thanks, Bob." Well, Bob, you could, but I'd personally recommend that you look into getting a reseller web hosting account. You see, the name can fool you. You don't have to resell the web hosting that you get, but you could. It could go either way in your case. The fact of the matter is that owning a reseller web hosting account can make managing multiple domain names a whole lot easier, because you can do it all in one place. Just assign each domain its own control panel, then divide up the bandwidth and disk space. I'll be sure to include a few articles that I've written in the past about reselling hosting, bandwidth, and disk space in today's show notes. The next email comes from a guy who left a comment on my miscellaneous web hosting and web development blog. They really didn't leave their name, so I'll just refer to them as that guy. That guy writes, "Hey Mitch, I've used several free hosts in the past and I've learned a few things. First, it's a bad idea to go with a small player because they have downtime often and short lifespans. The best free host that I found so far is freewebs.com. I was wondering what you thought about them. Personally, though, I'm not a big fan of free web hosting for big, important websites. They're really good for somebody who's beginning or just entering the web hosting world and wants to play around with a few things, but I wouldn't trust a free web host with an important website. I wouldn't trust a free host with the web hosting show. I wouldn't trust it with my website, mitchkeeler.com, or Mitchellanius. But I'm sure there might be a free host out there that might prove me wrong, so if you think you are one, go ahead and contact me, Mitch at mitchkeeler.com, and I'll have a look. I'll also be able to include an article in today's show notes that talks about free web hosting that I wrote a couple of days ago on my Mitchellanius blog. Remember, if you have any questions, comments, complaints, or issues with anything in the web hosting world, let me know. If you do, I'll read your email right here on the next episode of the Web Hosting Show. Just hit me up at mitch@mitchkeeler.com. Well, that's it for this week's edition of the Web Hosting Show. Remember to leave your comments either on the Web Hosting Show's website or go visit our official forums at Web Hosting Chat. I'm always excited to hear what people have to say about what we've done. Good or bad, let me know. If you've enjoyed what you just heard and you want to help spread the word, I say go for it. This show can only keep going if there's people out there listening to the content. So go out there, tell a friend, put a link up somewhere, write a review about my performance. Anything to help folks know where to get the best and only web hosting radio show on the internet today. I'm Mitch Keeler, and you've been listening to the Web Hosting Show, the voice of the web hosting world.